So welcome everybody to the CTA extravaganza. This is a collaboration this week between the HR engagement team and the training and workforce development teams. We bring you this week of content and learning about what goes on at the authority, introducing you to different projects and initiatives and departments and the people who are behind them all. So we're really excited to bring you this special session.
Just updated the fare box installation
to help you all get ready for, sorry, there's a little audio interference, to help you all get ready and excited for the CTA Transit Jamboree. My name is Lindsay Estupinian, and I am on the HR engagement team. I'm one of the specialists on that team. Very excited to be here with you and excited to announce that this is the first installment of our team's behind the scenes program that we are bringing back after a short hiatus. This is number one for us, but after this, we're going to come back to you each month, exploring one of those projects, initiatives, departments to help you get updated about what's new or get updates about ongoing projects or introduce you to something the authority is really focused on. So very excited that this is part one of a long project that we are hoping runs many years into the future. But without further ado, let's talk about the Jamboree. So the CTA Jamboree, we are super excited. I have a great group of panelists here today who are going to tell us a little bit about who they are and how they and their teams contribute to the CTA Transit Jamboree. So without further ado, I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and I'll go ahead and call each of you off. And then if you can just tell us who you are, what you do here, and how many Jamborees have you been involved in? So I'm going to start with Janine.
Good afternoon. My name is Janine Messina. I am Senior Manager of Infrastructure. I work in the Infrastructure Division, and this will be my 12th year participating in the Transit Jamboree, involved in it.
All right, thank you, Janine. Just going to go down my screen. Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Chris Hegarty. I'm the General Manager for Railcar Heavy Maintenance and Rail Engineering and Technical Services out of Skokie Shops, where the Jamboree has been held for at least the last 2 decades. Trying to figure out how many Jamborees I've been involved in, but my first one was in 2004, so maybe a dozen or so.
Great. All right, Jairo.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jairo Ram. I'm the Vice President of Bus Operations here at CTA. So I've got 25 years this year with the authority, and I can say that I've been helping out and involved in the Jamboree since 2004. So same as Haggerty.
Great. And Mr. Robinson.
You can count on me for some technical difficulties. My apologies. Brian Robinson, I'm the mechanical officer of the bus maintenance department. And I've been working here 11 years. And besides the COVID years, I've been to every Jamboree. And it is by far one of the best days of my year to attend it.
Great. Thank you so much. And transit ops and infrastructure, of course, 2 huge departments who have a lot of people and resources that go into making the Transit Jamboree happen. But this is an all authority event. So just want to acknowledge so many folks are coming together from teams in safety, from communications, from HR, from all over to really put this event on and to make it as fun and as interactive and as family friendly as it can possibly be. So huge shout out to just everybody who is participating in any capacity to bring this to us all. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into some of our questions. So I first want to talk a little bit about the planning that goes into the Jamboree. And before we even go there, let's start with some basics. So Janine, I want you to tell us what is, in a short sentence, because we're going to dive in more, but what is the Transit Jamboree? When is it? Where is it? Do people need to register? What are our logistics?
So the Transit Jamboree is going to be held this year on September 7th, as Chris Haggerty stated, at Skokie Shops. We're expecting this year 3,000 people to attend. That's employees, family, and friends. and it's going to be the competitions that for bus operations, rail operations, infrastructure, and it's going to start early in the morning where you can come out and see your family participate that work at the CTA, the best in their role that they play at CTA. And throughout the day, we're going to have different things for the kids to do and for the adults to do also. We can get more in detail with that as we go along.
So you said 3,000 people. That's a lot of people. So we know that these things don't just happen overnight. So what is your role with planning the Jamboree? And I want this to actually go to everybody. I want you to tell us what's your role with the Jamboree. So we'll start with you again, Janine.
So I work closely with the Chief Transit Officer, Mr. Bonds, and the Chief Infrastructure Officer, Mr. Mooney, on planning the meetings, getting everybody together, making sure that we stay on target, and that we're prepared on the day of the event, because a lot goes into planning it. We start planning it in January of every year when we do actually have the Jamboree. So it's intense 9 months of getting everything up and running from all the departments, from operations to maintenance and for infrastructure.
All right, Chris, how about you? What is your role at the Jamboree?
Sure. Well, with the event being held at Skokie, it's my group that deals a lot with the site setup. This includes making sure that we have the space available for all the different competitions and events, helping the different areas get set up, and making sure that they have what they need.
Great. Jairo?
Yeah, so I sit as the chair for the bus rodeo driving portion of the competition. With Janine whipping us into shape and keeping us in line, we after she beats us down so bad, we make sure that we get the driving portion and work with Chris and his group. Additionally, we put out the applications for all the operators, and it's an extensive process, because it takes for all my managers to do record reviews and everything else, and for us to start prepping them from one portion of the competition to the final competition, which is going to be held at Skokie this year.
Great. And Brian, what is your role at the Jamboree?
My main role is to get my car prepared for the car show, because I plan to win that this year. No, I'm just kidding. I'm as the chair for the bus maintenance. Our role is twofold. We are preparing. Our training department is preparing a competition for the maintenance professionals that are going to compete at this and go on to the national. And the other role is to support the operations and preparing and establishing the driving course, making sure all the equipment is up to date and upgraded and set up and tear down. But most of all, my role is to go out and enjoy it and interact with employees and watch a good event and a lot of good competition.
Great. So a lot of planning. When does all this planning start, and how is the team assembled? How big is the team? So Janine, tell us a little bit about that.
So as I mentioned earlier, it starts in January of the year that we're having the event. I reach out to the vice presidents, so like Jairo, Jeannie Alexander. We reach out to the chiefs and the mechanical officers, so they can get there. They have a chair and a co-chair for each committee, and they have 5 committee members. So the department then picks who the chair is going to be, and normally is the vice president of the area or the mechanical officer of the area. That's the chair, and they pick their chair and co-chairs with that. And then once the team is assembled, then we actually start having the overall meeting where everybody's invited to it. And then we start going through a very detailed agenda, picking out the stuff that their awards are going to win in their swag bags, if they're going to get days off, just going through everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we're on target for the event on September 7th.
How big is that team that's coming together for those meetings?
We roughly have about 70 to 75 people in the meetings.
Wow, those are big meetings, but I know you were through them, and your agendas are immaculate, and you move people through a meeting and you cover a lot. So it's a really admirable thing to see. So aside from transit ops, and I mentioned at the beginning, there's some other groups involved as well. So what other groups are involved in the setting up, the planning, the executing, and how are you all collaborating to make sure that this thing goes well and goes without a hitch? And this can be anybody who wants to respond to that.
I guess I'll start. So I work closely with Brian and his group, along with Chris and his group to ensure that we got everything that we need. Ours is pretty complex. So we have this driving competition, and so and prior to us getting on, we were just discussing about meeting at Skokie and going over the course itself, and it takes some skilled individuals to really go out there and basically lay out the course and make sure the measurements are correct. And to ensure that we have everything that we possibly need for competition day. And if you guys don't know, these operators, they take this really seriously, this competition. So we got to make sure it's picture perfect and it's ready to go. So that way we give our operator a fighting chance when they go compete internationally.
As far as some of the other departments that are involved, I mean, HR is a big one with getting the word out, just like you're doing right now. But also HR will have different booths set up for benefits and some things orientated for the kids. So that's a big group that's also involved.
And I'll just add that along with the collaboration that Vice President Arano just mentioned, we do have internal weekly meetings amongst my staff just to clarify and make sure that we're cutting everything off to make sure that we're well prepared well before the Jamboree. As an internal project some years ago started in bus maintenance. Now that it's become quite popular since my first day 11 years ago is the car show and bike show, which was the car show, I believe, in the beginning, and then we added bikes to it. And at one point, I think we had last year almost 20 to 30 vehicles there. So that's an active role by our training department who puts that together, and applications go out to all departments to enter in their best car for prizes and recognition.
Excellent, thank you. Chris, I want you to speak a little bit about Skokie Shops. So especially for those who have not been to Skokie Shops and don't know the size of the facility that we're talking about, excuse me, how do you prep Skokie Shops for this event, and what has to happen and when, and how many team members do you have involved in getting this ready for 3,000 people to come on site?
Yeah, well, we start months in advance. The meetings that Janine mentioned that she leads along with Mr. Bonds and Mr. Mooney, that helps kind of get us in gear. But separate from that, months in advance, my team will be meeting weekly to kind of update our list of things that need to be done and when they need to be done. A big thing that we have to do early on is get a rental contract in place for the supply of the tents. There's multiple tents that are set up on the property, including one as big as 60 foot by 100 feet. That's put in the front parking lot at Skokie. So we got to get that contract in place in the spring, before they all get rented out for whatever date that we decide on. And that takes a little bit of effort with getting quotes and getting the contract in place. But beyond that, getting closer to the event, we'll be moving material around to make space for all the different events. That's happening right now and will happen in August as well. When we get to the final week before the event, that's basically when Skokie transforms into the Jamboree area. We'll be moving rail cars that we're repairing. We'll be moving those out of the shop so that we can bring other cars in for the event, for different events, or just to make space for different areas to set up. For example, there's a CSA competition that has a booth with turnstiles that is set up in one area of the shop. Apart from that, we're preparing the shop so that it's safe for people to walk through, because otherwise it is an active shop with pits, and jacks and lots of tools and pieces of material. So we got to clean all that up and put safeguards around the different areas where we really don't want people going. Another area that gets set up is the kids games. There's an area that we have different kids games that have been made by Skokie craftspeople over the years. So that's another piece. Within that kids area, there's also face painting, and we try to introduce a new game each year. Yeah, those are kind of the big things. You know, that the size of the shop is like 300 people, and all the areas ultimately get affected by the Saturday of the event. As far as like people actively involved from Skokie Shops, there's a half dozen management staff that are dedicated to getting this thing together, as well as about 40 people on the Jamboree Saturday to help make sure that everything goes well.
It's a big undertaking, it sounds like.
For sure.
That's awesome. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and watch a short video that will give just a short preview for those of you who are not familiar with the space or who haven't been. So I'm going to go ahead and watch that now.
Can I get on here, man?
Chris and Janine, I was watching your faces while that video was playing, and the best part was you guys just having these huge smiles on your face, like seeing the people you know and the past competitions that you witnessed. So that was really special for me just now, and I could tell how proud you both were. So, and I know that extends to Brian and Jairo as well. So that was personally very fun for me. Very fun for me to see just now. Okay, I want to jump a little bit back into some of our questions. So we talked about, you know, you all have had, sounds like long careers with the Jamboree so far. Who can tell us a little bit about the history of the Jamboree? When did it start, and then how has it evolved over the years?
I will go ahead and jump in on that one. So the first bus rodeo started off in the spring of 1981. And the first winner was John Odom, who also won the second year for the bus rodeo. We then combined the rail rodeo in, we then created the rail rodeo, which at that time was called the Third Rail Roundup, because they were keeping with the theme of a rodeo for it. And that started in 1983. And the first winner for that was Robert Sanders. It also, I think, is very important to know that APTA did not have a rail international competition, and they actually reached out to CTA, and they had members of the CTA back then, the executive staff, help create the rail APTA competition internationally. And the first year that was held was in 1993 in Miami, Florida. And they had CTA assist in facilitating that and putting that together for it. This year will be the 35th year for the bus and rail rodeo at CTA, because some years we didn't have it. Unfortunately, COVID and other things happened previously in the past. But around 2000, beginning of 2000 is when we started having it at Skokie. And that's when we, around that time or a couple years before that, we started combining them together. And that's when it became the Jamboree, where we had infrastructure got involved, where we had a track maintenance competition. And then we started bringing signal maintenance and power maintenance. We started having all the games with the kids, like Chris mentioned, the face painting. We do the big luncheon where we have food catered in for lunch, and we have breakfast catered in for the people that compete, along with anybody that shows up with them and stuff. And that's when it became this big family event for family and friends, and for other employees to come out and, you know, to give back to the employees and say thank you for all the hard work that you do throughout the year for us. And this is a way that we can recognize you and also have fun while we're doing it.
Okay. Brian, do you have something you want to add to that?
Just a quick ad that it's been a good time to introduce it, that we've been working at the South Shops on some of the historic stuff from past rodeos. We have our own mini historian and upholstery shop at the South Shops, and he's been collecting items from early rodeos, CTA memorabilia for years. And we found a lot of the first belt buckles awarded in the roundup. We found a lot of information. I was working with Graham Garfield, and we're framing these items, bringing some of the items out in some shadow boxes to show people the history of the rodeo this year.
Great. Thank you guys. That'll be really cool to see some of those actual physical artifacts of past years. So again, this is for everybody. Tell us, what are some of the challenges of planning an event of the size and complexity? We know that CTA is no stranger to big events and big changes in schedules, but what are some of the unique things that you all come up against or plan around for something of this scale for the Transit Jamboree?
I guess I'll start. So one of my biggest challenges is trying to get all the volunteers that's needed for the actual course itself. For our portion of the competition, we need anywhere in the upwards of 45 people just to manage and have the competition. And that's not including like individuals that we use for reliefs and whatnot, because Janine will be there and she'll want to make sure that we're all wrapped up by a certain time, because they want to announce winners and everything before lunch and all this other stuff. So I gotta make sure that all gets done. But that's for me, and weather, right? So we always want it to be a nice, great sunny day, but I can remember one year where it was raining and you had cones running across the course because it was so windy out. So there's days like that as well. But for the most part, it'll be the volunteers getting all that together.
Your volunteers, are they, do they have to come from bus operations, or is it open for other authorities, folks who might want to help out?
Yeah, so that's the unique thing about this, right? So it's open to anybody. And the great thing is that we got a lot of retirees that, you know, keep in touch with us, and they really look forward to some of this stuff. So it's a great time to really see a lot of people you haven't seen within the authority, and then people who have long retired, and then they come back. You get to reconnect with them as well. So it's open to anybody.
Lindsay, one of the main challenges that we have, and where I see a lot of my staff on this call, is getting our teams turned in timely. We always end up with teams that compete in the maintenance competition at every location, but getting them in early and prepping seems to be our biggest challenge, but that's minor. The rest of we started early as soon as we found out that we were going to be doing a jamboree, and strong staff has really put together and covered all the bases in the maintenance department. But getting the applications in timely and getting them submitted to cleanliness and getting organized for the competition with teams seems to be the biggest challenge that we work with every week, trying to get there.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
And Brian, your teams consist of 3 people, correct? For
That
bus, and also Chris for rail maintenance, your team consists of 3 people.
Yep.
That is correct.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about those competitions, and we'll start with bus as well, since we were kind of already getting there. So really briefly, Brian and Jairo, what are the competitions that bus operations and bus maintenance are participating in?
I'll start, Brian. So for the operators, they're they're judged on their appearance, so uniform inspection, their driving skills. So they navigate through obstacles and courses that are set up to test their position and basically their control. Last but not least, they're judged on their safety and professionalism on board.
Yes, Lindsay, in maintenance, there are about 7 modules on a test that our mechanics will compete, and they can work together on all of these to navigate specific parts of the bus, such as the AC systems, the computer boards that the bus reads, the engine. An example is one part of the competition is where we will make defects on a bus, and a team has a certain time period to find the most defects they can find, as well as written tests and just getting an engine started, an engine that isn't running, finding the problem with it and getting it running. There are, again, 7 modules and a test that's taken, and where there's those scores on the written tests are compared and scored upon. This will present a winner that will go to the national competition. And that's all handled by the 89th Training Department, Robert Stuck and his team. And they do this by transferring modules that they instruct students with down there. And they can navigate these modules, such as the air brake system, to put defects on the standing module. And mechanics will have a time period to go to these modules and find the defects and score high for the amount of defects they can find.
All right, we have a short video kind of showing you what some of the preliminary competition for the bus operation side was like. But before we get there, I want to ask, or rather I am going to ask a leading question. Jairo, have you ever participated in any Jamboree competitions, and what was your result?
I'm sorry, you broke up, Lindsay.
Oh, I apologize. I asked, have you ever participated in a Jamboree, and what were your results?
As an operator? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've participated. I've won a couple. I mean, it's fun, right? So it's all fun, good competition.
Has anybody else participated in the call in any of the competitions? I knew Jairo had, but I wasn't sure about anybody else. No? All right.
No, but I have to jump in, Lindsay, because he's being very reserved. Jairo actually won at APTA International when he went there from competing in 2008. He won, and he competed at 2009 APTA, and he won first place there.
He's humble. He's so humble.
To be fair, Janine, she asked about the Jamboree, not APTA. Okay.
I know, but still, I want to give you kudos for that, Jairo. You should get kudos for it.
Well, congratulations on your win. And I know that you've inspired many others to compete in this competition. And I know many have gone on to the next level as well. So, okay, we are going to jump to the video. I do see a hand raised. We are going to have time for questions at the end of our kind of scripted questions here. If you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat. We'll get to those at the end, or we'll also ask, if people want to unmute and ask them into the call as well. So hold on to those questions for the time being, but we're going to try to answer as many of those as we can. But right now I'm going to show you a quick video about what you can expect to see from our bus competitions. All right, we're going to transition a little bit to the rail side of the house now. So talked a little bit about the bus competitions, and I want to talk about some of our rail competitions too. Chris, you all mentioned rail maintenance competitions. What are the rail maintenance competitions?
So similar to bus maintenance, there's like a series of different tests, 8 different tests. So HVAC, rail car HVAC units set up and different issues on those for the competitors to find, electrical circuitry test and tool identification. We might have a wheel assembly set up with some defects that the competitors need to identify or measurements they need to take, things like that.
Great. All right, and we also have a few short videos I'm going to share that will share a little bit about rail operations and rail station management and the competitions that their folks participate in. So we'll go ahead and take a look at those now.
My name is Jeannie Alexander. I serve as the Vice President for Rail Operations. This year we'll be having the RTO, which is our Rapid Transit Operator Competition. With this competition, we take pretty much the best of the best from our Rapid Transit qualified operators, and they do a skills competition. This competition is really inclusive of their day-to-day operations, preparing their trains for service, and a few other scenarios that I can't divulge right now. But again, it's really capturing the best of the best. The rail operating employees must meet the level criteria that is set forth on the application. So we look at things from their attendance, from safety violations, any negative infractions that may inhibit them from being able to participate. Some of the winners are invited to the end of year transit banquet where we celebrate all participants. For rail operations, we have 1st through 5th place. So really it depends upon the number of participants that we do have in the overall competition. I think the RTO competition is one where you can see the employees who we consider the best of the best coming to really go for that championship title to represent not only rail operations, but their own respective terminals. There are several meetings that we have internally. I do serve as not only the Vice President, but I am also the Rapid Transit Operator Competition Committee Chair. And what that role does for me is allows me an opportunity to select a committee of members. We go over the testing, we work on the application. In addition to that, we also go over the various scenarios that the employees will be competing on. The management team serves as judges. In addition to judges, we have our scores table, we have uniform inspection. So it really is a great opportunity for you to see what the competition entails. Although you won't have the Jamboree goers having an opportunity to see the actual competition, because the competition does take place in the yard and within live revenue service, you still get an opportunity to see the winners as they are crowned champions. So I am happy to say that specifically because a lot of the safety parameters that are around the 600 volts, third rail, and the yard capacities where you have to be qualified to be within those areas.
All right, so that's a little bit about what you can expect to see on the rail ops side. And now we're going to see again one more short video from the rail station management side.
Hi, my name is Richard Porter. I'm the General Manager for Rail Station Management on the Red, Purple, Yellow line. RSM participates in the Jamboree as far as with the customer service portion. So what is entailed? The customer service do examples as far as on-duty activities, like they're serving an everyday customer, and we create the different scenarios for them to perform. First of all, it'll be the fare structure. Make sure the fare structure is correct. As far as if there's a bomb threat, things like that, putting a bicycle on the system, as far as the timeliness of having the bicycle go on the system, and just the everyday duties and responsibilities of a CSA CSR. The process is, first of all, there's an application that is submitted. Then there's a certain criteria you must meet in order to participate. So I'll put it this way. So the ones with the good records are the ones that really participate. Basically, if they know their job, no, because it's basically an on-job training or whatever. So if you're good at what you do, you shouldn't have a problem participating in a rodeo. Normally they receive a prize, and everybody receives something for participating in the rodeo. Another area that rail station management participates in is the cleanliness part with our janitorial staff. So there's a cleanliness competition that's held also, which is under rail station management. I've been here for 23 years dealing with the Jamboree. I think it's a great activity, especially for the employees and their families, and especially for the employees to feel really appreciated.
All right, so we've talked about bus and we've talked about rail, and we know now that there are infrastructure competitions as well. So Janine, tell us some of the competitions that your folks will be participating in.
So one of them is our track maintenance competition. All of our competitions in infrastructure are in teams of 2. So for my track workers, they'll be competing with a spiking competition. There'll be a clipping competition on the rail. We'll also have a chainsaw competition that they're going to be doing, along with a scissor lift competition. Then I have my power maintenance division, who is going to be competing, and they have to show how they install what they call on the third rail a chair. It's not a typical chair that you would think of that you sit in. It's the chair that they use on the third rail that they install. They're going to be doing welding and cutting with that, along with a bond cutoff for it. And then they do some other things also with that. And then my signal department also has a competition where they compete also in pairs. And they're going to be doing basically electrical, where they do a train stop for the trip. They call one of them called a speedy ID, where they have to identify the parts used in the signal maintenance department on a regular basis that they have. So it's very on their day-to-day job of, like, with all the other competitions of what they do for it.
Great. We are going to hear now from a past winner of one of the track competitions.
My name is Oscar Guzman. I've been with the CTA for a little over 9 years. I'm a Roadmaster 3. It consists of overlooking the job, look over guys, teach them how to do the job, help in any way possible to just make the job on the guys easier and workflow to go smoothly. I do a variety of jobs. Most of the time it's tie renewal, so replacing old ties with new ties, so we can get rid of the slow zones in the area so the train can travel at a faster speed for the people. The Jamboree is like an annual competition for us to showcase our skills of every trade in the department and the whole company itself. The past Jamborees, I have done the spiking, I have done the high lift driving, I've done the roping of tools, I've done a spiking, which is like a jackhammer to cut spikes down, or a hacksaw, like a 2-man saw, to cut a tie, me and a partner. I've competed in 4 Jamborees and I've placed in 3. I've won actually 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The fact to be able to show people what we do on a daily basis, to show them it's a skill, not just like a labor, just go out there and do, but it's the skill to everything that we do here, just to kind of show it off. Actually, just doing the work every day. It just consists of daily work, and you just get better the more you practice, the better you get. The fact that we can show our families and friends and everybody around us what we do on a daily basis. We get bragging rights pretty much for the whole year once we find out who wins and stuff, so that's good to walk around with.
All right, so that kind of rounds out our overview of the competitions. There's a lot, it sounds like, that'll happen, and there's a lot to see from these. So I think it'll be really exciting to see just the diversity of work that that gets done at CTA through these competitions. But next I want to go on to what else is happening. So we've kind of touched on a bunch of things. There's a couple listed here on the screen, but go a little bit more into detail. What else happens at the Jamboree? What are some of your favorite things that you like to see? What are your highlights? So I'll kind of go through. I want to make sure we get to questions. So I'm going to give everybody like 20 seconds. Like, what are your highlights and what should people go see? So Janine, let's start with you again.
The one thing that we're bringing back this year, which everyone's loved, is the Jessie White tumblers. So they'll be back this year performing at the Jamboree, and they'll be there at 10:30, and they do an awesome show for us. And again, I think this is their 4th or 5th year with us for the Jamboree. So that's one thing that everybody loved. And then we have a DJ that's there, and they love the music that we have.
Great. Chris, go to you.
Oh, all those things listed are pretty cool, but the Jessie White tumblers, you know, if you get a chance to see that, that's good. It's a good time to get your flu shot. I've done the historic train ride, which is cool. You know, for me, watching the bus operators competition is the coolest thing. Just seeing what they can do just reminds you how challenging being a bus operator is.
All right,
That's
Brian.
why I like Chris. You see that? I agree. I mean, coming in and doing the and watching a bus operator competition, I'm not taking anything away from rail, but as Jeannie stated, there's only a certain portion you can see on that. But here you get the full effect of it. Not only that, these operators are out there showcasing their skills, and it's also a really good opportunity for, you know, everybody to learn, network, and then celebrate the excellence of our employees, right? You gotta remember, these are the best of the best, and whoever wins out of this, they're being sent over internationally to compete internationally. So, yeah, bus operator competition for me.
I have two as my favorite. Obviously, being a mechanic, I like competing against the mechanics who bring their cars there for the car show. And although I haven't won, there was something with the judging there. I plan to win this year. But the car show, just seeing different types of cars that I've either dreamed about having or just wanting to see them restored is always a highlight for me, as well as the area that is set up for the family's children. I like going in there and pushing those kids out of the way because there's a lot going on in there and I can see they're having fun. But that area is not, sometimes we suppress something like that or do it at a small scale. And Janine and all the leadership that set that up sets up a nice area, and it's good to see. I like to see kids really enjoying themselves in that area. It's nice to go by and check out.
Hey, Brian, you need an actual car to win. Your decal doesn't count. You know that, right?
I'm bringing a monster this year. They're going to have to really bring the right car to beat this.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for those plugs. I've got a few more questions that we can get to if we have time, but I want to go to our audience. So we did have a couple folks who submitted questions as part of the registration, and I think they're good ones and things that we kind of touched on already. But first off, volunteers. Somebody asked, how can they volunteer? So Janine, I'll let you take the lead on that.
Yeah, so this week there's going to be a link set up for volunteers to sign up to assist. There will be areas that they can either A, pick that they'd like to work in, or B, just general, use me wherever you want to use me at the day of the event. So yeah, they'll be able to do that. So they can sign up this week when it goes out with the link and the QR code to scan it in.
Excellent. The other question that we had come through registration was, why is it always at Skokie? So Chris, do you want to take that one?
I asked the same thing. I'm not sure. But we do have a pretty big open area that is good for doing, you know, the bus operator competition is something that you need a lot of space for. But then we also do have other space for having the tent set up where the food is served and the words are issued. I guess got a lot of space that we can use.
Great. All right, I think a couple questions might have come in. Gabby, my colleague, was monitoring the chat. Was there any questions that came in that we could answer right now?
I don't see any questions in the chat at the moment, but if anyone does have questions, please feel free to drop them in.
Or
Lindsay, I
feel
have a
free.
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to hear, I think there's going to be a good representation from wellness of this year's Jamboree. And I know a few folks have mentioned some of the kind of HR collaboration in here. But given that wellness, I think I saw our wellness friends on the call earlier. I'm not sure if they're still on the call, but just talk a little bit about what wellness is going to have at the Jamboree this year. So for folks who have attended the wellness fair in the past, that would be great to know. Do we still see? I think they may have dropped off already. So then I will share that information. So if for those of you who have attended the wellness events in the past, the big wellness fair that happens that has come back since COVID, there will be kind of a mini version of that at this year's event. And so the wellness team will be there providing, like Chris mentioned, the flu bus will be there, other information about our wellness programs, our EAP programs. Our resource groups will be represented. So our veteran employee resource group will have a table. And our new women's resource group will also be representing, passing out information about how to become involved in that. And so there's, in addition to everything that everybody has mentioned, this is a great way to learn more about CTA, to find out ways to be engaged with and participate in these and other events that are available. So this is really a one-stop shop because you're taking advantage of this amazing event, but also learning about other ways to be involved the rest of the year and in coming years. And the more that our team members are engaged with us and with each other, I think the better employee experience they have. And so super grateful for the folks on the call who put so much work into this and give us all a platform to provide information to our team members and show them how much CTA cares about their experience.
Thanks for that, Leticia. One of the other questions that I think came up during as you all were speaking too, and especially about the competitions. So we use the word Jamboree and we've also used the word rodeo. So what's the difference between those two, or are they synonymous?
So the bus rodeo started first, then we had the rail rodeo. And then one of our executive members back in the day decided to make it a combined event. And that's when it became the Jamboree, to have family, friends, and all the other little events throughout it. And that's when it became the Jamboree for it.
And we've also alluded a couple times to the national competition. So Jairo, tell us a little bit about, winners here at Chicago, they go on to national, like what is the national competition?
It's so it's hosted every year in a different city. This year it was hosted in Portland, Oregon, which was extremely cold and rainy, and it was nice, but not that nice. But anyways, so next year it's being hosted in I believe is in Austin, Texas, which would be a lot nicer than Portland, right? But basically you get properties from all over the US that come out and actually compete. And so most people don't know that it was surprising to me, even after COVID and coming back to the rodeo and doing everything internationally. And for those who don't know, the international competition just restarted this year again since COVID. So it's been gone just as long as we've been, down with the Jamboree itself. I was surprised to see that a lot of the same operators are still competing at that level. And some of them, like I said, this is a very serious thing for them. So they take this very serious. And at the international level, it's just very high skilled and everything's fast paced and everything's really organized and structured. So we really do try our best to get with the help of maintenance and everybody else. And I don't know, I thought I saw Stucco when I'm on. And guys are amazing. They do wonders just to help our team to make sure that we're all prepared and ready to go.
Great. Awesome. So I want to ask our audience one more time. Feel free if you have any questions, put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask if it's not easy for you to text into that chat right now. But we want to give one more opportunity for you all to get all those burning questions asked and answered. But So while you're thinking about those, I'm going to ask you all one more time. Is there anything else you want people to know about this event, about the Jamboree, about how they can get involved or why they should come? I'm going to go through one more round for you to put in your final plug. And so Janine, I'm just going to start with you one more time.
If they have, I know since COVID, we've hired a lot of new employees. If they haven't been to the Jamboree, I think this would be a great opportunity to see each department showcasing what they do, and also getting to know your coworkers and everything. I'm a very big advocate for the Jamboree, going from bus ops to rail ops, all the way through the infrastructure maintenance and rail maintenance. So everybody can kind of see what we do on a daily basis. So if you haven't been, you need to come out and join us. I guarantee that you'll have an awesome time and your family and friends will enjoy themselves also.
Chris?
It's a fun event, so I highly recommend you come out if you can.
Short and sweet. Mr. Robinson?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, when I did attend previous Jamborees, it's the best day of the year because some people may deem me a people person, and that's why, because at that you can meet employees and their families and see all of us as a team, as a group, as a CTA, as an organization, really fellowship and have a good day. And learn a lot about each other. And I don't recall ever having time to talk about work at once. So it's a good event to exit that day of our work and our daily duties at the CTA to really fellowship and meet the families and meet our employees on a stronger and personal level.
And then Mr. Robinson, they can see you win the car show too while they come, right?
Absolutely.
Brian, you need to register for the car show before you can win it.
That's a good one.
Hi, Ro.
I agree with what everybody said. I think it's a great day for everybody to come out and celebrate. And, you know, ultimately, you have to remember it's not only a competition, but this is an employee event, right? We're doing this to, you know, to hopefully help boost up morale and get the employees out with their families. Also, it gives the families a real sneak peek into what they do on a day in and day out basis, right? And sometimes a lot of that stuff, you just never know what your loved one is going out the door to do. You think they're driving a bus, but really don't know that they actually have all these skills and you know, techniques to, you know, compete at a national level. So it's a great event. And if you're not planning on joining, at least plan on volunteering, because I need a lot of volunteers and I'm going to be taking and stealing a bunch of people to use them on that day. And it's going to be a nice, fun-filled day for everybody. So I hope to see everybody there.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Lindsay, one final thing from our end, and thank you, number one, and thanks for our panelists and the folks who did our pre-recorded interviews to kind of shed some light on what the Jamboree is. I think with over 4,000 new employees that started since COVID, to them, they don't know what this is, right? And so being able to share with our community about this amazing event is important, but more than anything, we need support from everybody who has attended this call. We had at some point about 65 people here, which is fantastic. So if everybody spreads this to their department and make sure that their peers know that this is, you know, they hear the word competition, they might think that this is not for them, right? They don't drive a bus, they're not truck workers, they're not in that department. This is a family-filled engagement event that is put on for our entire organization. And so the more that we can be ambassadors for it, the best showing we're going to have this September. So thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Lindsay, for moderating. And thanks for all of our attendees for joining and learning and being ambassadors for us and making sure that we have a great event in September.
Thanks for that, Leticia. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you, Janine, Chris, Brian, and Jairo for being our panelists today. You guys are great and you have so much information to share about this event. So we really appreciate it and all the work that you put into the actual event, which we know now takes many months and many hours and many people. So thank you for all that you do. Thanks to our attendees for joining. I just want to highlight the additional events that are happening this week as part of our CTA extravaganza. You can still sign up, I believe, for Chicago Avenue Garage Tours through the green QR code. And then we are also hosting a Tools of the Trade department fair where you can go and learn about even more of our departments and our the jobs that are done. And that's happening on Thursday, July 25th. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you all with is save the date for August 27th, which is when we're doing our next behind the scenes, where we're going to learn a little bit more about CTA's new chatbot. So stay tuned for more details. But everybody, again, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Take care.